Good morning. Welcome. I am Stephen C. And you are at Steve OC's. Welcome to Steve OC's on TikTok. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. It is 11 a.m. Central Time. And this is our daily Course in Miracles review. This is our spiritual discussion, our spiritual practice, and work on TikTok. Every morning we commence at 11 a.m. Central Time and go for about 45 minutes to an hour talking about our spirituality, metaphysics, mysticism, esoteric Christianity, and related subjects using the Course in Miracles as a framework and as the platform from which to launch that discussion. If you miss the live or can't make the live every day at 11 a.m. Central Time, I also upload every episode, every live over to my YouTube channel. You can find me on YouTube also at Steve OC's or search Stephen C on YouTube. And please like the live. Feel free to participate today and comment. Like the live, share the live, follow this account, and check out some of the other content that has been uploaded from this account. So welcome. Glad that you're here this morning. I like to begin every live by reading the introduction to the course to ground ourselves and to frame ourselves properly. Thank you for the likes. Laureate Pruitt, welcome. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Thanks for being here. So I like to read the introduction to help ground us in proper vibration. Sort of as an opening prayer, the introduction to the text says, "This is a course in miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." And so that very succinct two-paragraph, very direct recitation, summary of the purpose behind the Course in Miracles and some of the qualifications and some of the principles of it. Interestingly, it says the course is required. Only the time you can take it is voluntary. You cannot establish the curriculum. These thoughts are all related to the idea which is put forth in the course that I did not create myself. You did not create yourself. And so, in order to save ourselves or rescue ourselves or extract ourselves from the current situation, the impossible situation, the Course calls it, that we have placed ourselves in, we need some help. That help comes from God, the Creator, the Source, through the grace and the action of the Holy Spirit, the Divine Feminine, Sophia, as the Greeks called her. And so the Holy Spirit teaches us that the mind is split. We have separated off a portion of our mind, which is referred to as the ego mind, according to the Course in Miracles, similar to the carnal mind, the personality, the psychological terms used by Freud and et al. And all the others, the ego, the id, the subconscious, all of these are part of the teachings of Course in Miracles, which was written by two psychology professors at Columbia University in the 1970s, Helen Schuckman and William Thetford. So, Course in Miracles goes from that psyche, from the psychological, the psyche, the soul, and expands upon it and sort of illuminates it. Interestingly enough, goes from the psychological, from the, again, psyche, the Greek psyche, the soul, and expands upon it through the voice of Jesus, who is and is what Helen Schuckman said she heard and began to hear in her head. A voice began speaking to her as Helen and William Thetford decided that their working relationship was not profitable to either of them. It was very contentious, very competitive, very acrimonious, and they said to each other, there must be a better way. When they both agreed that there must be a better way, the Course in Miracles started to download into Helen Schuckman's mind, if you will. So you can read about all of that in the preface to the Course. And as always, we start this live and continue this live by going into the lesson for the day. Today is lesson 133. It is the 133rd day of the year, Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. And lesson 133 says, I will not value what is valueless. If you don't have a copy of the Course, if you don't have the text, you could find the entire text, the workbook, and the manual for teachers, and all supplemental material online at ACIM.org, which is the foundation for Inner Peace, who is the publisher of the Course. The entire text, the entire book is online with a fantastic search function also available. So lesson 133 says, I will not value what is valueless. And it says, sometimes in teaching, there is benefit, particularly after you have gone through what seems theoretical and far from what the student has already learned, to bring him back to practical concerns. The workbook is considered the practical application part of the Course. Text is considered the theoretical part of the Course. And what it's saying here is there is generally benefit in teaching, particularly after a bunch of theory, to get back to practical concerns, to get back to the application of the theory, actually proving that what it says is true. This we will do today. We will not speak of lofty world-encompassing ideas, but dwell instead on benefits to you. And now, second paragraph, first sentence, says something very important here. One of, and there are many, but one of my favorite lines from the Course, one of my favorite ideas, it says, you do not ask too much of life, but far too little. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. Our expectations, if you will, our desires, are much too restricted, according to the Course in Miracles, much too limited. What are they limited to? They are limited to, as we will see here, the external world. And there is no satisfaction in the external world because sooner or later, everything in the world disappears. Our youth, our relationships, our jobs, our cars, our clothes, our homes, they all seem to be around for a period and then they disappear, they deteriorate, they die. And so the Course says that's not where the truth is, that's not where the benefit is, that's not where the joy, happiness, love, and fulfillment is. No, in fact, all of that is within us. Truth and the solution to the seeking of happiness in life lies within us. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. When you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, to things you buy, to eminence as valued by the world, you ask for sorrow, not happiness. This Course does not attempt to take from you the little that you have. It does not try to substitute utopian ideas for satisfactions which the world contains. There are no satisfactions in the world. So there's a hard truth for you. There's a little slap in the face, if you will, from the Course in Miracles, a little 2x4 across the forehead, asking us to wake up, realize the truth. There are no satisfactions in the world. And it tells us why. Today, we list the real criteria by which to test all things you think you want. Unless they meet these sound requirements, they are not worth desiring at all, for they can but replace what offers more. So again, we do not ask too much, we ask too little from life. The things we desire are not worth desiring at all, for they replace what offers more. Less has been substituted for more, and we think less is more, which is why the purpose of the Course in Miracles, the office of the Holy Spirit, is to help us reverse our thinking. Substitute the truth for illusions, or eliminate illusions and allow the truth to be itself. Allow the truth to dawn upon our minds, to recognize, for us to recognize what is already there, what has never disappeared, which we have hidden from ourselves, but which is always there in every holy instant. The Course says, we've been talking about the holy instant the last few days. The holy instant, no past, no future, just this complete, fulfilled moment of now. Power of now, yes? Course calls it a holy instant. Unless they meet these criteria, these sound requirements, the things we want, they are not worth desiring at all. For they can but replace what offers more. The laws that govern choice you cannot make, no more than you can make alternatives from which to choose. The choosing you can do. Indeed, you must. So the power of decision is my own. Power to choose and to stay with that choice, remain with that choice, follow up with that choice. The power of decision is my own, but it is wise to learn the laws you set in motion when you choose. So the first Hermetic law, first Hermetic principle is the universe is mind. I am a thought in the mind of God. You are a thought in the mind of God. God is thought. Everything is thought. The all is mental. It is wise to learn mental laws you set in motion when you choose and what alternatives you choose between. So, what laws are set in motion when we make a choice, and what are the alternatives to choose between? We have already stressed there are but two, however many there appear to be. There's only one choice to be made. There's two options in duality. We can choose illusions or we can choose the truth. Our split mind, which shows us duality, which we perceive as duality, which we interpret as duality, is in fact a unity. The dual parts are parts of a continuum, parts of a spectrum, parts of a polarity. Another universal law, Hermetic law of mentalism, is polarity. So cold is not a thing in itself. On the continuum, cold is simply the absence of heat. Darkness is the absence of light. So that polarity is a spectrum, as if there's a slider, right? 0 negative, 0 positive. And that slider, wherever we put it, from darkness to light, that is where we will be, where we put it through our thought. So it is a continuum, or you can go this way and call it an ascension. Ascend from the lower chakras to the higher chakras, in one example, or ascend to the Father consciousness, to the high consciousness, to the best version of yourself, is another way to put it. Ascend, slide up the scale of polarity. We've already stressed there are but two, however many there appear to be, choices. The range is set, and this we cannot change. It would be most ungenerous to you to let alternatives be limitless and thus delay your final choice until you have considered all of them in time and not been brought so clearly to the place where there is but one choice that must be made. Another kindly and related law is that there is no compromise in what your choice must bring. It cannot give you just a little, for there is no in between. So, again, this example then as a continuum is being disputed a little bit by that statement right there. It's more like a quantum leap, perhaps, is what the Course is saying. Take the quantum leap, non-local, non-locality. Just place yourself under the new coordinates. Just jump from here to here. Each choice you make brings everything to you or nothing. Everything, the truth, nothing, illusions. Therefore, if you learn the test by which you can distinguish everything from nothing, you will make the better choice. First, if you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you choose is valueless. And remember, the thought for today, the mantra, the phrase to practice is I will not value what is valueless. So if you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you choose is valueless. A temporary value is without all value. Time can never take away a value that is real. What is a real value? The truth is a real value. Love is a real value. Light is a real value. Things we can value. Happiness is a real value. What fades and dies was never there and makes no offering to him who chooses it. He is deceived by nothing in a form he thinks he likes. So, again, it says here at the beginning, first paragraph we read, said we're going to go from theory to practice to application. And then it says, but before we go to application, let's make sure we got the theory right. Let's make sure we have the thought system, thought structure properly laid out. So that is what it is now doing for these next couple of paragraphs. So it's qualifying what is real and what is unreal. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. We just read from the introduction. So if something passes away, if it will not last forever, it is not real. It's just appearing and deceiving me in a form I think I like. Turns out it's a form my ego thinks it likes. My ego mind, my separate mind, my need to be better, my need to dominate, my need for status, right? My need for bling, to elevate myself in a way that will not last because it's not shared according to the Course in Miracles. Secondly, next, if you choose to take a thing away from someone else, you will have nothing left. This is because when you deny his right to everything, you have denied your own. You therefore will not recognize the things you really have, denying that they are there. Who seeks to take away has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain, yet loss must offer loss and nothing more. Important paragraph there, important idea there. First, we transfer our attention from within ourselves, from the internal to the external. Then we think the value is in the external. So having and getting things becomes important. And then under the scarcity principle, we believe, or the social system believes, or the culture believes, collectively, we believe that if I have if I have more, you have less. And the Course in Miracles very quickly here is going to call that sacrifice. So in order for me to have more, you have to have less. You're going to have to sacrifice. Sorry about that. That's just the way it is. The Course says, no, that's not the way it is, because the universe is mental, as we started out with. And so the universe is about sharing the truth, sharing correct ideas. And by sharing ideas, we strengthen them. So we share the idea that the all is in all. Everyone has everything. Everyone is everything. Their identity, their creation from the Creator, who shared itself with us, extended itself as us, and so we are similar. We are in the image and likeness of the Creator. So we co-create. We create like the Creator. Like the parents have children, and then the children have children. Children become parents. They are created in the image and likeness of their parents. And then the grandchildren become parents, and the parents become grandparents, and the grandparents become great-grandparents. Aren't you glad I explained that? So we are now on the mental level, or on the level of consciousness, on the internal level. Same thing. Who seeks to take away externally has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain. And the mistake is happening mentally, because as the Course says, we've forgotten, or we no longer understand that everything is an idea, that by giving something, I receive also. Giving and receiving are one in a unified consciousness. There is no loss or sacrifice in giving because giving is an idea. Giving and sharing are ideas. And so I can share the idea of giving, and that I can share the idea that there is no loss in giving. I can give you love. I can give you forgiveness. I can give you peace. I can extend all those things to you mentally in consciousness and through feeling. So both the masculine and feminine principle, I can extend those to you. Thus, I am sharing the idea of unity, of oneness, of togetherness, of peace, of harmony. So it goes from the mental consciousness, the internal. And then, the Course says it doesn't really go to the external or the material. It just becomes a different form of thought. So you have to maybe think about quantum physics, think about wave propagation, think about waves becoming particles, condensing or collapsing into a particle, the wave function collapsing into a particle. And if you think of the wave function as a vibration, as the quality or the frequency of the thought, when it collapses into the particle or into material substance, then we will see what we be. If you see it, you be it. So who seeks to take away has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain, yet loss must offer loss and nothing more. Your next consideration is the one on which the others rest. Why is the choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? Here is the easiest of all to be deceived. Why am I here? Why is this happening? What is the purpose of my being here? What's going on? What purpose does it serve? Here is the easiest of all to be deceived. For what the ego wants, it fails to recognize. The ego represents the part of our mind that is totally confused and totally confusing. It says one thing one minute, it says the exact opposite the next minute, doesn't even recognize it just contradicted itself, right? Have you ever been involved in such a conversation? Remember, it's not the person outside of you. The confusion, or the Course says, the darkness is within you. It's being projected outside of us, and we think we're seeing it outside of us. I think I'm seeing it in you because, as Jung said, I don't want to deal with it within myself. What the ego wants, it fails to recognize. It does not even tell the truth as it perceives it, for it needs to keep the halo which it uses to protect its goals from tarnish and from rust, that you may see how innocent it is, right? How holy the ego is. So the ego is deception itself. It doesn't tell the truth, even as it perceives it, for it needs to keep the picture of innocence that it projects. I'm innocent, you're guilty. So it goes on to talk about this. We want to eliminate guilt, not project it outside of ourselves. We want to dissolve guilt by realizing that anything that happens in a dream, that anything that is part of an illusion really isn't happening. It has not really happened. Yet is its camouflage a thin veneer. Yet is its camouflage the lies that the ego comes up with, the self-deceptions that the ego comes up with, is a thin veneer. Camouflage is a thin veneer which could deceive but those who are content to be deceived. Its goals are obvious to anyone who cares to look for them. Here is deception doubled, for the one who is deceived will not perceive that he has merely failed to gain. He will believe that he has served the ego's hidden goals. Yet though he tries to keep its halo clear within his vision, still must he perceive its tarnished edges and its rusted core. So that's the guilt, right? We always kind of feel like, maybe I didn't handle that properly. Maybe I could have done that a little better. Maybe I could have acted more civilly. Maybe I could have been a bit nicer in that circumstance, right? So the guilt pops up. His ineffectual mistakes, the Course calls them mistakes, not sins, just mistakes that need to be corrected. His ineffectual mistakes appear as sins to him because he looks upon the tarnish as his own, the rust, a sign of deep unworthiness within himself. Shame, guilt, unworthiness, the ego mind or the separate mind, divided mind, the dual mind, that portion of the mind seeks to convince us that we are unworthy. He who would still preserve the ego's goals and serve them as his own makes no mistakes according to the dictates of his guide. According to the ego, you're a sinner and you're in big trouble. God doesn't like what you're doing. You're in big trouble. That's what the ego mind tells us, what the energy of guilt and unworthiness and shame tells us. This guidance teaches it is error to believe that sins are but mistakes, for who would suffer for his sins if this were so? And so we come to the criterion for choice that is the hardest to believe, because its obviousness is overlaid with many levels of obscurity. So the obvious is hard to believe. This is the resistance that the ego puts up in our quest for enlightenment, or to recognize the true self, to recognize ourself with a capital S. This ego mind, which seems to have a mind of its own, which seems to oppose us, is obscuring the truth, which is very simple. If you feel any guilt about your choice, this is the final criterion. If you feel any guilt about your choice, so we have to be very honest, is that guilt can be very subtle. If you feel any guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives, and thus you do not realize there are but two, and the alternative you think you chose seems fearful and too dangerous to be the nothingness it actually is. All things are valuable or valueless, worthy or not of being sought at all, entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. So the practice of the workbook here in the Course, and I think we're going to go to the text now, because this is the idea. I will not value what is valueless. And so I have to be shown what is truly valuable and what is not. I have to be able to discern that, and then I have to be willing to choose what is valuable and to disregard what is valueless. The ideas, the thoughts, the criticisms, the judgments, the ego, the separate sense of self, which is trying to convince me. So there's a chooser, and there's two aspects to be chosen from. So there's three characters there: a chooser, and the wrong choice, and the right choice. There's three characters there within us. The chooser just gets to choose, just gets to decide. That's it. And that's who we are. That's the function. That's how easy it is. Choose this day whom you will serve, God or mammon. And mammon not being just money, but anti-Christ. Choose this day whom you will serve, Christ or anti-Christ, God or mammon, the truth or illusions. And guess what? Illusions have no power. Antichrist has no power. Mammon has no power. They're not there. They don't exist according to the Course. Complexity. So we're choosing between what is entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. Choosing is easy just because of this. Complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke and mirrors, complexity, which hides the very simple fact that no decision can be difficult. What is the gain to you in learning this? It is far more than merely letting you make choices easily and without pain. So go to lesson 133 at acim.org to find out the answer to this cliffhanger. It goes on for a few more paragraphs, but I'm going to switch to the text for today. So I will not value what is valueless. It does ask us to practice that twice during the day for 15 minutes. Meditate on that idea. I will not value what is valueless. If we can actually convince ourselves of that, then we will begin to understand what is value and what is not value, what is valueless and what is valuable. Because I will not value what is valueless. I tell myself that throughout the day. That is the practice of the workbook of the Course in Miracles. I wake up with that idea. I go to bed with that idea. And I practice it for extended periods during the day, and then also do spot checks, spot practices. I can put myself on the clock and do them every half hour, every 15 minutes, every hour. I can say to myself, I will not value what is valueless. Or if I seem to become disturbed or triggered, I will tell myself, I will not value what is valueless. If I become upset, I have chosen the ego. I've sided with the ego. If I become upset, if I become frustrated, if I become angry, I have sided with the ego. And eventually, and finally, we want to side with the Holy Spirit and not with the ego. So the text, this is from chapter 15, section 10, which is the 133rd section. The Course is divided into chapters, sections, paragraphs, and sentences. So you can look it up very specifically, right down to the sentence. This is section 10 from the 15th chapter, the 100 and the 33rd section of the book. It says the title to the section is The Time of Rebirth. You need to be born again, right? It is in your power in time to delay the perfect union of the Father and the Son. It is within our power in time and space to delay our rebirth. It is within our power. That is the power of our decision. That is the power of our choice. We cannot decide the curriculum. We can only decide when we will take it. as we read in the introduction at the start today. In this world, the attraction of guilt stands between them, between the Father and the Son. The attraction of guilt. Neither time nor season means anything in eternity, but here it is the Holy Spirit's function to use them both, though not as the ego uses them. So everything that the ego has made up, good morning, Mary, good to see you, hello. Everything that the ego has made up, that the ego has constructed and manufactured, and we don't say created because creation happens with God, co-creation with God. Instead we say the ego made it up because it's not true. It's an illusion. It is the Holy Spirit's function to use them both, though not as the ego uses them, time and eternity. Let the Holy Spirit teach you, and let me celebrate your birth through her, or your rebirth through her. The only gift I can accept of you is the gift I gave to you. This is the voice of Jesus talking, or the Christ consciousness, or the higher self, or the I am. The only gift I can accept of you is the gift I gave you. Release me as I choose your own release. The time of Christ we celebrate together, for it has no meaning if we are apart. The holy instant, this moment of now, closest we can approach eternity in time and space, power of now, this moment is truly the time of Christ. For in this liberating instant, no guilt is laid upon the Son of God, and his unlimited power is thus restored to him. So guilt is a function of time and space. Guilt is a function of the past. I did things in the past and I feel guilty. I feel ashamed. And in this moment of now, in this holy instant, there is no past to be ashamed of, to feel guilty of, because nothing happened. It's not there anymore. So bringing the mind and the consciousness, focused and determined to remain in this holy instant, in this moment of now, and extend it to eternity, the Course says. So a portal, a doorway into eternity, right here, right now, this moment of now. To see me, Christ, to see the truth, to see me is to see me in everyone. No exceptions. And offer everyone the gift you offer me. Treat everyone as you would treat an honored guest at your dinner table. Treat everyone as an honored guest in your house. Have you ever been to the Middle East? Have you ever been to Egypt? The Middle Eastern, the Eastern consciousness, very gracious, very welcoming. When you go shopping, they offer you a cup of tea. They offer you snacks. They treat you like a friend, whether they know you or not, whether you spend money or not. Very gracious. Offer the gift to everyone that you offer to me. I am as incapable of receiving sacrifice as God is, and every sacrifice you ask of yourself, you ask of me. So this is 180 degrees from the interpretation of the cross, okay, that God sacrificed his son. And this is explained in the text of Course in Miracles. You can look up crucifixion, search the word crucifixion, and find out the interpretation that's given to it in the Course. But it was not a sacrifice. That is the interpretation of the ego mind, that God sacrificed his son. So What we are reading in the text today is that sacrifice is unnecessary. No need for sacrifice. To transfer from nothingness, to give up nothingness, and to transfer to everything or to receive everything, no sacrifice is involved. I'm not giving up anything. I'm giving up the illusion. I'm sacrificing the dream. I'm waking up. There is no sacrifice in waking up. I just have to let go of what I think is valuable, as we talked about in the lesson for the day. I will not value what is valueless. I'm going to give up what I think is valuable based on externalities, based on the teachings of the world. I'm going to give that up. I'm going to turn within. I'm going to listen for the voice of the Holy Spirit and learn the truth. I'm going to wake up, and I will find that nothing, in fact, has been sacrificed. The sacrificing of the idea that there is sacrifice may seem like a sacrifice. It does seem difficult at times, or it has seemed difficult at times, but ultimately, as we evolve and progress, then it becomes quite apparent that to give up what is meaningless, there is no sacrifice at all. It becomes quite easy. We who are one cannot give separately. We can't hold back. We can't hold back part of our forgiveness, or we're going to look on everyone as the Son of God. We can't hold it back from certain individuals. It has to be given to everyone, and then I receive it fully and completely. If I forgive you your trespasses, then my trespasses are forgiven, all of them. And all of them are contained in everyone. So everywhere I turn, I should be shining the light of forgiveness, happiness, joy, love, peace, and fulfillment. When you are willing to accept our relationship as real, the relationship with Christ consciousness, the relationship with Christ, the relationship with the I am, the higher self, when you are willing to accept our relationship as true, as real, guilt will hold no attraction. For in our union, you will accept all of our brothers. The gift of union is the only gift that I was born to give. Give it to me that you may have it. The time of Christ is the time appointed for the gift of freedom offered to everyone. And by your acceptance of it, you offer it to everyone. There is no lack of resources. There is no lack of anything. There is no lack of money. There is no lack of health. These are all aspects of consciousness. These are all thoughts that have to be embraced, deeply, deeply embraced and embodied. Then our experience changes. The gift of freedom. Christ offers us the gift of freedom. Buddha offers us the gift of freedom. Krishna offers us the gift of freedom. To accept it, we have to extend it, the Course says. To receive, we must give. Giving and receiving are one. If I'm unwilling to give, it means I'm unwilling to receive. It is in your power to make this season holy. For it is in your power to make this time holy, to make this moment holy. For it is in your power to make the time of Christ be now. Fields are white for harvest. What are you waiting for? Waiting for someone to come riding in on clouds of glory? Oh, well, you're free to do that. It is possible to do this all at once because there is but one shift in perception that is necessary, for you made but one mistake. It seems like many, but it is all the same, for though the ego takes many forms, it is always the same idea. What is not love is always fear and nothing else. So this is again that quantum leap, the holy instant. So we have to practice the holy instant, practice the holy instant, the holy instant, the holy instant, until it takes hold, until we start manifesting instantaneously, until I can catch myself and immediately change my mind. Oh, I almost got angry there. Oh, no, 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 no. No, I understand. I allow, I accept, I'm happy. First, we catch ourselves. Okay, then we practice overriding, overwriting. If you're a programmer, overwriting the old programming, transcending, undoing through the grace of the Holy Spirit, through the power of the Holy Spirit, the divine feminine. Then it becomes instantaneous, automatic, continuous. That's what we're looking for. Continuous, eternal. Now it says it's not necessary to follow fear through all the circuitous routes by which it burrows underground, hides in darkness, to emerge in forms quite different from what it was. Yet, it is necessary to examine each one as long as you would retain the principle that governs all of them. Right? So every part is contained in a whole. So the whole, or the initial premise, is an illusion. Then every part of it is an illusion. The means, the end, the beginning, the middle, it's all an illusion. So if I can convince myself to say, I'm not participating in illusions anymore. I'm only participating in the truth. And really mean it. Then that's all I'll experience. So it's going to take some practice. Because we've thrown ourselves in a ditch, we've dug a very deep hole, so to speak, metaphorically, symbolically. So it's going to take a minute to climb out of that hole. It's going to take a minute to climb out of the ditch. So when you are willing to regard them, the illusions, the mistakes, the misinterpretations, when you are willing to regard them not as separate, but as different manifestations of the same idea or one idea, and an idea you do not want, they go together. So they all follow the leader. They all follow their creator, their general, the ego in all its manifestations, the idea of separation in all its manifestations, which the Course says is fear, or it often also calls it death. Death and all its manifestations, all its variations, all its derivatives. The idea is simply this: you believe it is possible to be host to the ego or hostage to God, right? We want to reverse that. We want to be host to God, which eliminates us from being hostage to the ego. Sacrifice is so essential to your thought system that salvation apart from sacrifice means nothing to you. And so the misinterpretation, again, of the cross. For many people comment on the fact that why many people who start with the premise that there is no God, or what kind of a God, and so that they say there is no God. How could there be? If God would do that to his son, which kind of makes sense. Why would he? The Course says he wouldn't. It's just a misinterpretation. It's a mistake that's been made in interpreting the allegory, in interpreting the metaphor. Search crucifixion online in the Course, and it explains it, what that demonstration was, what it could symbolize to you and us. It is this you must look upon. Sacrifice is attack, not love. If you would accept this one idea, your fear of love would vanish. So it's just talking about here about all the confusion that the ego causes. If God so loved the world, he gave his only son, and then he had him tortured. Well, right? If I'm an 8-year-old at Catholic parochial school, a 10-year-old, and love means torture, that kind of explains the whole corporeal punishment aspect of parochial schools, doesn't it? Doesn't that explain it? Of course, you're not going to have that discussion with the church hierarchy, of course, but just think about it for a minute. I think that's also part of the discussion in the Course in Miracles. I think it does go into that. It says, if God so loved the world, he gave his only son, and then had him tortured, that sort of justifies me saying, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you, and then delivering corporal punishment. Guilt cannot last when the idea of sacrifice has been removed. So we're removing the idea of sacrifice. Yeah, martyrs, Mary says. Yeah. You know who the first martyr was, according to the Catholics? Saint Stephen. Yeah. First martyr for Christ, Saint Stephen. Took a bunch of arrows, apparently. Metaphor, hello. For if there is sacrifice, someone must pay and someone must get. And the only question that remains is how much is get. And the only question that remains is how much. We believe you can give your guilt away. We believe we can project our guilt. You are unwilling to recognize that the ego, which you invited, is treacherous only to those who think they are its host. The ego will never let you perceive this, since this recognition would make it homeless. For when the recognition dawns clearly, you will not be deceived by any form the ego takes to protect itself from your sight. So this is bringing everything to the light, not keeping anything hid in darkness, or in today's psychological vernacular, doing shadow work, bringing it to consciousness, process it, let it go. Okay, the ego doesn't like that. It will resist that. How fearful has God become to you? And how great a sacrifice do you believe his love demands? So that's what this text is about here, about being reborn, let's call it the fear of being reborn, is the fear of dying and being reborn. So think about all the Catholic imagery, the guilt imagery around that. When you die, where are you going to go? Are you going up or are you going down? I'll see you there. I'll meet you there. Okay. You think that everyone outside of yourself demands your sacrifice, but you do not see that only you demand sacrifice and only of yourself. So again, all that stuff seemingly is happening in the external world outside of us. Oh, I have to go to work. I have to. I have to feed my family. Okay. It's tricky. It's subtle because God will feed your family. The life force and the life energy within all of us, if we paid attention, it's the Sermon on the Mount. God feeds the birds, right, Mary? God feeds the squirrels. Why would God not feed you? Now, you have to get over that little hump called money and earning money and locking up the food. As my master teacher says, yeah, but we lock up all the food, don't we? God doesn't lock up the food. Look at the squirrels, look at the birds, look at the deers, look at the deer, look at the bears. Food isn't locked up. We lock up the food, strangely, in order to profit, in order to make a buck off of people eating. Woo! I think we're a little bit off track there. So let's finish up here. You must choose between total freedom and total bondage, for there are no alternatives but these. That's what we heard in the lesson for the day. I will not value what is valueless. And then it told us that value is not partial, it's total. So we're choosing between total freedom or total bondage. For there are no alternatives but these. You have tried many compromises in the attempt to avoid recognizing the one decision you must make. Right? So we're all these compromises, all these deals we make with ourselves and with others to hide ourselves from the truth because we're too guilty. We think God's going to punish us. We forget and we don't really understand that God is love. The only love there is God's. God is love, and so God could not punish us. It doesn't even occur to God to punish us. We punish ourselves and blame it on God, which is, again, the ego projecting. It is the recognition of the decision, the one decision we must make, just as it is, that makes the decision so easy. Salvation is simple, being of God, and therefore very easy to understand. Do not try to project it from you and see it outside of yourself. Right? Key concept right there. Salvation's within us. Don't try to project it outside of ourselves and tell yourself, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if, I'll be happy when so and so does such and such, then I'll be happy. I'll be happy, I'll be satisfied when Washington, D.C. straightens itself out. Then I'll be happy. You might be waiting a long time. Do not try to project it and see it outside of yourself. In you are both the question and the answer, the demand for sacrifice and the peace of God. So 2 more names for the ego mind and the mind of the Holy Spirit, or the mind of God. Demand for sacrifice or peace of God. Peace of God does not require sacrifice. So thank you. That is all for today. Lesson 133 and chapter 15, section 10. Go check it out. Go if you want to see a replay of this live. If you joined us a little bit late, or if you just joined us, or if you'd like to join us and you weren't able, you can go over to the YouTube channel at Steve OCs and see the rebroadcast, watch the upload. So thank you for your comments. Thank you for your likes today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for following this account and subscribing. And peace and blessings. Love you. Have a good day. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace. Have a good one.